Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order has not only surpassed EA's expected sales figures, but they've turned their business model on their head. Remains to be seen what the impact of this will be, but for now it is somewhat encouraging, given that it has far surpassed the sales figures that they expected, showing that there is a very strong and sizable audience of people that, yes, do want single-player only games and are willing to pay for that and are willing and want to play them in the millions. From the Motley Fool, from the transcript of EA's conference call, total net bookings for the quarter were 1.9 billion, up 23% on the prior year, despite a 39 million FX headwind. Sales of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order significantly beat our expectations. We had forecast 6 million to 8 million units for the fiscal year, but hit the high end of that in the third quarter, and we now anticipate selling around 10 million units in the fiscal year. A very strong result for a single-player action game. And they do talk a bit about Madden and obviously quite a lot of other stuff. I've provided a link in the description if you're interested in reading on that and understanding how what EA is telling their investors publicly, right? What's their public message to those people? It's a pretty solid financial situation. EA is making money, so they're going to continue doing what they've been doing until now, which is both good and bad. Good in the sense that they haven't really screwed up as of late, except maybe Battlefield 5 to some extent, and obviously Battlefront 2. But they're redeeming themselves with those titles, or rather, DICE is redeeming themselves with those titles. And then we have Apex Legends, and now we have Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So, hey, EA could do worse. I've seen them do worse, far worse as a company. I've seen some pretty terrible years from this company. So if they're doing good right now, well, they should continue doing it. Though they should also learn some lessons from Jedi Fallen Order. Whether or not they will, that's debatable. Yes, they've sold in a single quarter more than they expected for the fiscal year. Though the fiscal year that they're talking about includes basically Q3 and Q4, so they sold in a single quarter more than they expected to sell in 2 quarters. And now their expectation is over 10 million for 2 quarters for that fiscal year, which is fairly solid and actually more than Battlefront 2. So with Battlefront 2, a multiplayer-focused game and very much a game as a service, which EA envisions all games should be, maybe not after this point, but we'll see about that. But Battlefront 2 fails to meet EA's sales figures, and I believe that by the end of 2018 they had sold about 10 million copies by the end of 2018, and that's a big title, a multiplayer focused game, a Star Wars game, marketed as much as Battlefront was, probably sold less than Jedi Fallen Order is expected to sell at this point in this fiscal year that we're still in. So that's very good news for Jedi Fallen Order. And it's good news for people that do care about single-player experiences. Because gaming companies, more and more have wanted to move away from single-player. Because they want to make as much money as possible. Of course, there's the cynical side of viewing things and saying, yes, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order did sell well. It did have quite good sales. But the catch is that despite that, it isn't generating as much money for Electronic Arts and for Disney, right, who own the IP. It isn't generating as much money for these companies as something like Battlefront 2 is, or other multiplayer-focused games, because you don't have loot boxes, you don't have microtransactions, you don't have DLC. I mean, certainly the game could use an expansion pack, but you don't have anything like that. The only thing you have for Jedi Fallen Order is some pre-order bonuses and some digital deluxe bonuses. But that's really it. That's not really a lot compared to what these companies make in other titles and what they want to make. So that's the cynical side of viewing things. The optimistic side of viewing things is that Jedi Fallen Order sent a message to a company as big as EA and other companies that yes, there is a big audience of people that want to play games like this, are very interested in playing games like this, and want more of that. And that is very good because Jedi Fallen Order, it's okay. It's nothing exceptional. It's Dark Souls light with, honestly, mostly bland and forgettable characters. I'll be perfectly honest about that. Like, looking at the game, having played it twice, think to myself, am I really going to remember any of these characters years down the line? Will I care about any of these characters? No. The only interesting bits in the game, from a story perspective, from actually getting you engaged in it, were the parts with Order 66 and the part with Vader. So that's pretty much it. That's effectively the only emotionally engaging the only emotionally engaging parts of the game right there. Everything else, not so much. It's okay. It doesn't piss you off. It doesn't do anything controversial. It doesn't anger people, but it also doesn't do anything too terribly exciting. It's fine. That's it. It's a fine game that you can enjoy playing. Nothing more, nothing less. Though, who you would lay the blame for that? Is it Respawn? Maybe. Is it EA? Maybe. Or is it Disney? I mean, I think really more so than anything else, I think Disney has decided to take a direction with Star Wars that isn't particularly exciting to begin with. I mean, I've watched Rise of Skywalker, and in my mind, watching that movie, it's like they really played it safe in that title. Nothing terribly exciting, nothing terribly surprising, nothing terribly controversial. And that's kind of disappointing because I didn't give a shit about The Last Jedi, but I did like Rogue One. And I think, the failure of the Solo movie, the failure of Last Jedi, the huge controversies that accompanied both films have really put Disney in a position where they don't want to release a project like that again. And so they want to take it safe. They want to make things that won't piss people off, right? Because ultimately they'd lose money if they anger a lot of people, and I think that's clearly the case with The Last Jedi in particular, more so than the Solo movie. And then, of course, you have The Mandalorian, which is getting very positive reviews. So, yeah, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a fairly safe title that doesn't do anything terribly exciting. It could have. I mean, there's so many ideas, so many things that you could do with a title like that, and they just basically made Dark Souls light with not the most interesting story, not the most interesting characters, with 2 good moments, effectively, in it. What happens now? That remains to be seen. We haven't heard, outside of this conference call, we really haven't heard anything on Jedi Fallen Order since its launch. We haven't heard anything about new content. We haven't heard an expansion pack, a real expansion for it, or a sequel. Though I imagine that one might be made. Who knows? It did certainly make the money. So maybe a bigger, better version, or a sequel or an expansion adding to the base game. We'll see. I mean, certainly the game has that potential. You could add an expansion pack to it, and it would work quite well. So, hoping that things will develop in a positive way for that particular title, and hoping that EA understands, as should other companies understand, that there is a hunger and there is a desire from a lot of gamers for a single-player focused experience. Will they? I don't know. This is a company that famously had its CEO saying, some years ago, saying that we will charge people for ammunition. There was quite a clip released years ago with audio from that meeting. He was saying, it's like, people want to pay for ammo. And the guy recording it added the Imperial March theme on top of that clip, because that's how evil Electronic Arts was viewed and still is viewed by a lot of people to this day. I mean, that's the kind of company we're dealing with here. Though, to be honest, I think a lot of people go after Electronic Arts, but they're no Ubisoft. You want to look at a horrible company? Yes. I will say without a shadow of a doubt, in my mind, the worst company, one of the worst companies in terms of the big publishers, developers, Ubisoft, without a fucking doubt. EA gets a lot of flack, but as a company because they've done some terrible things and they've taken the blame for some terrible things that happened. Though there's also things that happened that wasn't really on EA's head, that they weren't really responsible for. Mass Effect 3 as a particular example, that's really on BioWare, and for people that do research that, check that out, that's really on BioWare. But as a company, they've certainly wanted to apply the FIFA model, which is, loot box, microtransactions, treating the game as a service. They wanted to apply that system to other games throughout the years. They've met some mixed success. I'd say probably the biggest success was Mass Effect 3 in quite a few ways. And then BioWare applied that model to Dragon Age Inquisition and Andromeda and failed completely because those games were not particularly interesting, even in multiplayer. I was a bit surprised with Mass Effect Andromeda, I gotta admit, but people just weren't interested in that title for a variety of reasons. So their attempts at implementing such a system in other titles, mixed success at best. It's pissed off a lot of people. It's ruined their reputation. Not that their reputation was in a very positive place to begin with, but it's gone down by quite a bit. And then, of course, you have titles like Battlefront 2, the massive microtransaction controversy surrounding that. And we'll see what EA does. This shows clearly there is an audience for something else, something different. Will they take the chance, or will they refuse to change anything? Because, who knows, maybe they think that they will earn more money by staying where they are right now. Costin here, signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications. Thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for more.